Basically what's happened is the BBC, I'm sure you've heard this, have done, and I don't know what we're allowed to say. Are we allowed to say unvaccinated, even the phrase?
I think the phrases are fine. Just we have to say that by YouTube laws, or will be shot. Masks play a role in combating the virus. Don't know what role that is, but they do play a role. And we don't question the efficacy of the vaccine.
It's safe and effective.
I think that's party speak that I have to give. And then,
because I was proposing to Callum we change the word to Elliot Page just to make sure we're not in trouble, because you're definitely allowed to say that. It's the only word I know or phrase you're allowed to say. No, he's doing a no sign. So, okay, let's just go with this then. So Professor Hannah Fry seeks to understand why 8%, questionable, of the population remain unvaccinated against COVID-19 in Unvaccinated, an eye-opening new documentary for BBC Two. And so that immediately got ratioed. Immediately people were saying it's more than 8%, and it got obliterated. I had some questions, but I trusted it. I wrote, I look forward to this in-depth documentary that will definitely not try to make anyone look bad or stupid. So I went into it with an open mind, Callum.
I can see.
Yeah. Because I was like, the BBC, they're very fair.
We've seen it in the past. I mean, just unbridled, solid gold journalism.
Absolutely. BBC, right down the middle. And so who's it? Well, so it's Hannah Fry. Can we get a little look at Hannah and who she is in this clip?
I'm Professor Hannah Fry. I'm a mathematician, and I worked on the data and the models that the government used to bring us out of that first lockdown.
And I had a question there. Are you only responsible for bringing us out of lockdowns? It's like, it's a small question, but I've never heard of a scientist that's used just to get us out of lockdowns. She may have, but usually just present data, then they do something with it. Or some cynics would say they have a policy in mind and they get the data they need. But it's often brought us into lockdowns. I didn't know they brought in people just to get us out of lockdowns. You know what I mean? Like, we need to get out of lockdown. Call Hannah. You know what I mean? But it's possible. I just think it was interesting the way she framed it. Like, I'm the one that got us out of the lockdown. I just had a question immediately. But she may well have.
They're already all distancing themselves from whoever the hell put us in. Don't know how it was, but...
Yeah. Steve put us in it. I got us out. And I'm Hannah. I'm the BBC. Hello, Professor BBC. So now, let's be fair to the BBC. We didn't have time to show it all, but they had a range of people. They had someone who was worried about... They had someone who was a care worker and didn't want to get sacked for not taking it, and he was very sensible. So they did have some sensible people, and they had some more sort of people who more like, I just don't want to take it. I don't trust it. My friends have had problems. My family, and then they
were all clearly mad. But
there was different degrees. The care worker guy was smart. There's a girl called Nazarene. We'll see later. She seems perfectly smart. But they also had this guy Luca. Let's have a look at him.
I reckon there is inside the jab, and obviously when they turn all the 5G towers on, which they're building everywhere in the world, I think a lot of people are going to die.
So they had that guy as well.
That's a bit different.
You've got to throw that guy in for balance, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, those people out there.
Part of me wonders if he works for the BBC and they're just like, dude, just put on the glasses. And
yeah. Dave, can you just come off that camera a minute? Yeah. It's perfectly possible. But you've got to have that guy in a way. You've got to represent everyone. They didn't have Toby Young. They didn't have Dr. Robert Malone. You know what I mean? One could argue there were people who would have represented the case a little bit better. But hey, maybe
they're not looking for that, are they?
Well, you could say that, Callum. I say they're fair and balanced. But yeah, so mainly what they did, they had people like that, and they asked. It was a sort of, it wasn't like a balanced documentary. It was more about like, how can we do better next time in our authoritarian schemes? So they asked themselves searching questions like this one that Hannah asks here.
My big question is, what did we get so wrong about the way that we've been talking about this, that millions of people still don't want to take the vaccine?
I mean, it's a good question. I've got a few answers for it. The girl, if we played a bit further, would have said, "Oh, there's no easy answer for that." It's like, well, I've got a few.
Censorship. I mean, this is the thing. If there's the free debate in which we can find the answers, and truth will prevail in the free debate, we must believe if we're liberals. And the state didn't believe in that. The social media companies didn't believe in that, presumably because none of them are liberals or progressives, and instead shut down conversation, which of course makes people suspicious. Which. Yep. If you wanted them not to be, don't do that.
Yeah, and do you think things like this could have put them off? It's time to punish Britain's 5 million vaccine refuseniks. They put us all at risk of more restrictions, says Andrew Neil. Do you think that kind of rhetoric might have put people off? Do you think Karen Brady...
A sensible libertarian, I'm sure.
Right. What about this one? Karen Brady, make their lives harder. We can't force people to have jabs. We can force vaccine refuseniks to live a far more difficult, inconvenient and restricted life. One that will also be more expensive because of mandatory testing, says a rich woman who's some sort of baroness or something. Oh, thanks, Karen. And never forget these people. I'm just reminding everyone.
Literally, okay, Karen.
Make the exactly, okay, Karen. Make the unjabbed face their own lockdown so we can live our lives. Never forget these people. Sean O'Grady, independent. What did he say about it? This is what we do about anti-vaxxers. No job, no entry, no NHS access. Oh, really? No healthcare? No healthcare for the unclean. That's
Healthcare is a
well.
right, but not for you.
Yeah. This was recently. This was May last year. The one from Karen Brady was December. I was going, it feels like a long time ago now. It's like, this was 7 months ago. And then here's another reason people might not want to take it. Oh, look, are we allowed to say this one? Can we even say Lisa Shaw? Or do we have to call it Elliot Page?
I think this is a fake news article, or I'll be shot.
This must be fake. Presenters. Oh, yeah, we can't say that. This didn't happen. It's on the BBC, though, weirdly, so it's confusing. I don't know which BBC to believe now. I'm very confused. Yeah. I just noticed that. But, yeah, so look, there's lots of reasons, Hannah, why people might not want to take the vaccine, but what could we have done better? So it's one of these little fake self-examination. And anyway, so there's a few good people in the documentary. Nazarene comes across quite well. The BBC may have accidentally created a new star here, like people said they did with Farage or something, or some people even claim they did with Boris Johnson on Have I Got News For You, because actually she comes across really well. And here she is with her friend who had 28 years old, 5 days, she took her, something happened, and then some things happened to her. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I just suddenly realised that sentence has just gone completely off the... I was like, I can't say any of these words.
This is what they've done to us. I mean, this is
terrible.
why I get to the censorship being the root cause of... if you actually want to sit there, if a genuine person from this position is like, well, I don't understand why there's so much, upset around the idea that we're forcing people to take this, or why are people suspicious? Well, okay, I mean, you can have all the, the guy who talks about chips, and that's a whole other scheme of what the majority of the complaints are, which is if people are suspicious about your censorship, and, well, if you're censoring things, there's usually things that are suspicious about you, then that obviously makes sense. And therefore, if you want them to be confident in your position, don't censor them. Don't censor information about what you're doing.
You'd think, Callum, but you're not the BBC. I mean, so she had a stroke and 3 heart attacks, but of course, it was not from the medical treatment, as Hannah will explain here. Let's have a look.
So this is a video of her having a...
Her life has been profoundly changed by what's happened to her.
Yeah.
I think the one question that I would ask is how can you be sure that that was the vaccine and not something that would have happened anyway?
If you've been completely healthy before, that one thing changed, and then days later, you're suddenly experiencing all these things you've never had before, like and the chance of that happening to someone so young, I would say, not possible.
But she's completely wrong, of course, and we can't stress that enough. BBC woman say coincidence, so she must be right. And Callum's just thinking about how much he's going to have to edit later, and I can see it in his eyes.
She's going to start inserting memes at certain points.
But this is the BBC. All we're doing is showing what the BBC show. So anyway, that happened in the doc. The bit that has attracted quite a lot of attention online is this Professor Adam Finn, and it's quite interesting to hear how they describe him in the documentary here.
I'm heading to Bristol with Luca, Ethan and Mark to meet Professor Adam Finn, who's been instrumental in COVID-19 vaccine research.
Instrumental in COVID vaccine research. But you know what else he is, Adam Finn? He's the leader of the Pfizer Centre, we find out. So it's an interesting question. It says, led by Adam Finn. This is in Bristol, I think. And it's just interesting that he works at a Pfizer Centre. Just pointing it out is not necessarily a problem, but presumably they'll mention it in the documentary and just say, hey, I'm Professor Adam Finn, I work for the Pfizer Centre. And, that might make you think...
My job might be tied to all this.
Yeah. But then you might explain and say, well, but really, I'm still independent because blah, blah. Let's see what he actually says in the doc. If we have it.
Play the clip.
There you go.
The American companies like Moderna and Pfizer have taken a very different approach, and they've seen this as a bonanza. I mean, they've made an absolute fortune out of making these vaccines, but we've all kind of jointly made the decision that capitalism is the way we want to go. People like me and people like the regulatory authorities exist as a kind of buffer in between them and the public. And if results come out that companies might not like the look of, it's my job to publish them and make sure that everyone knows what's going on.
Did any of that make you think I work at the Pfizer Centre? I mean, he offers a critique of Pfizer, saying that they're making a load of money. He does a weird commie dog whistle by saying, well, we've all chosen capitalism. I mean, I'm not happy with it. Hey, wink, wink. But that's what we chose. Then he says he's a buffer. What he means is he works, and now look, maybe it's perfectly innocent. He works within the vaccine centre, but maybe he's sort of he's independent. I'm not suggesting he does what Pfizer says, but you think he'd just go, I work at the Pfizer Center, but really my role is blah, 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 and it doesn't. But they don't mention that anywhere in the documentary. And from that clip, he sounds like he's critiquing. He sounds like he's on a march against Pfizer.
I mean, it's sort of weird as well, where he's like, okay, I mean, firstly, if a medical company makes a load of money making good medicine, then no one cares. I don't know why you're bringing up, like, with communists who are, like, were suspicious of that. No one is, except the commies, but that's, like, what, 5 people in a basement? But the aspect there is, this is capitalism. Okay, hang on. Like, if it's mandated, it's not capitalism? Like, you're not mandated to buy certain groceries because it'll make you healthier and live longer, and therefore it's good for your health, or anything else. It is up to you, and that's the way it's always been, and that's, the ethical way of doing medicine, you would have thought.
Right,
but that wasn't the conversation that was being had.
You're right. There was no international campaign behind Calpol. No, we just liked it. It tasted good, guys, and it may have worked. We don't know. But you know what?
Calpol refused nicotine to be put down.
But what's interesting to me is that if I'm doing a BBC documentary, I know the internet's going to explode with this. I just get ahead of it and say, this guy works at the Pfizer Vaccine Center. But actually, and they later said something like, "Oh, it's not like a corporate. It's not like a company where it means he's the leader in the corporate sense. He's just like he just works there in some sort of academic sense." They sort of, but put it in the documentary, or the internet's going to go crazy, isn't it? Because that's the obvious thing you should mention.
Yeah,
you shouldn't just say he's been instrumental.
You should try and be as transparent as possible so people trust you.
I think
not,
so.
Censor things or hide things.
I think so, I can't, but I'm old-fashioned. But so, and very similarly with this Professor Asma Khalil, who had a clip about why the treatment is safe and effective for babies. Let's play it.
It's normal and it's common for pregnant women to feel very protective of their babies. But what we know for sure, the vaccine does not cause miscarriage. We know that the vaccine does not increase the chance of stillbirth. So we really have good safety data from a very large number of pregnant women who actually received the vaccine.
And that's just in the UK?
All right.
Not just in the UK. So most of the data that we have are from the United States, from the UK.
I thought, yeah, that'll do. But if you go to the article, you actually find that this professor, again, if you scroll down this one, there you go, is tied to the pregnancy trial, the Pfizer pregnancy trial, with her name there. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not making any claims. This was just in an article.
It's not a surprise that someone in this field would work in pregnancy trials. The question is, well, she works for Pfizer. So, I mean, again, this kind of reminds me of, I mean, it's the obvious point of when you speak to someone in medicine and journalism, you need to make sure who's funding them. And if they're funded by the corporation that they're promoting their product, well, then you just can't use them because that's not really an ethical way of doing journalism.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just asking the question because it was hard to find more information on that, but I'm just asking the question. I think the other one was more questionable to me, but there it is. I'm just putting it out there. It's a point of interest that someone raised. And the whole documentary, really, the problem with it was, instead of just saying, here's what these people think, and here's what these people... You could have had a great documentary. You could have had skeptics like Toby Young and Dr. Robert Malone and people like that against smart people who say we should take it, and that would have been completely fine. That would have been very interesting. But they didn't go with that. They went with, we need to convince these plebs to take it. At one point, she pours a load of jelly beans on the table to try and demonstrate your chances of getting a side issue. And it's stuff like that. It's like, what about if I use jelly beans? And it's like, no. And there's some people have said they felt patronized by that. The lady later said on GB News, Vicky, that she felt that was patronizing, which it was. And the other thing they did, they tried to use the Ukraine fake news from the war to try and say, hey, guys, you've been fooled by other fake news. Maybe you've been fooled by the jab fake news. I'm just trying not... I'm trying not to say any words, guys. If I sound like unsure in my sentences, I keep thinking what words
I just can't get over the hilarity of the BBC being like, maybe you believed fake news elsewhere. It's like, you guys literally published that, the bad man wanted to behead Muslims and made a post about it. Never happened.
Right.
You guys have been caught continuously just making things up. So
yes,
anyway. There
is that. But we're on the... And let's have a look at a clip where Nazarene sort of hits back at their attempt to use the war as an analogy.
But on there are a few videos
of with the war.
Yeah.
There's someone I know that.
This is incredibly irrelevant.
It's not.
It is so irrelevant what you're saying right now.
I can tell you the reason.
No. We're not talking about a war. We're not using that to discredit anything this whole group is saying.
I'm not trying to discredit anything
You're generalising again. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
I'm not trying to trick you.
We're not talking about a war. We're talking about a... Yeah?
Why?
She can't even say it because it's on Twitter, so that word's out. But yeah, that was good. She shut it down. She said that was one of the actual clips she was proud of.
This is obviously a red herring to the whole conversation.
Yeah. It's so clear what they're trying to do. But you go, okay, they're throwing everything in the book at it. But why? Why is your approach? All right, I'm trying to convince Callum. I've got him in a house for 6 days with a lot of other people. A bit like brainwashing. A bit like how you do brainwashing. You arrive in a van, you don't know where you are, and I just hit you with jelly beans, war analogies, and you're going, oh, maybe I should take it. It's like, or you could just ask what they think. Is that crazy? Am I mad? Anyway, that was the whole tone of the piece, and I think it was summed up at the end when the conclusion, Miss Fry, sorry if it's not Miss, I don't know what it is, but Hannah Fry makes this conclusion at the end.
Experts are warning that the risk of a new pandemic is higher than ever before. And next time, engaging effectively with the millions of unvaccinated could be even more important.
Yes, and the lesson you should have learned is don't censor people in conversations.
Right, but instead her conclusion is, more plague on the way, how can we make more plebs take it next time? Isn't that what you got from that?
Yeah, just again...
And the question no one asked in the whole doc, D Company Bookie has put it on Twitter, watching a bit of this unvaccinated program. One question they seem to not be asking is, why the F does a healthy young adult need a bleep for a mild bleep? I'm just bleeping everything out. Need a vaccine?
It's not a conversation worth having, really.
Right.
I think we're allowed to just say that.
Yeah, it didn't.
God, I love making segments for YouTube.
I know, but that didn't come up in the. I know, sorry, these segments I picked, but that didn't come up in the whole doc. Like, what if they just didn't want it for that reason? And now the fallout from it's been quite interesting. The Telegraph have reviewed it and they've given it 1 star. Oh, hang on, it's been changed. That's weird.
I know. It's
it is 1.
It's
That's my eyesight. Sorry, guys, that's a boomer moment. That's my some sort of colour blindness kicking in. I thought they'd change the stuff. Yeah, so painfully patronising documentary treated vaccine skeptics as idiots. The BBC set out to prove wrong rather than fairly represent the views of Britain's 4 million unvaccinated adults, and it's probably way more than 4 million, as people have said. And there was a good quote down later on. It said, Professor Hannah Fry was the host, there to discuss the issues and their views. What this really meant was that Fry would try to change their minds by explaining to these people in a lovely soft tone of voice that they were wrong. And that's basically that was the whole show. And then, in a kind of Rotten Tomatoes of UK media, The Guardian give it 4 stars. They love it. Unvaccinated review, the most infuriating TV show of the year so far. They're still annoyed, but for opposite reasons. They're annoyed because Hannah Fry tries to change the minds of 7 COVID vaccine refuseniks in this documentary, and you'll need a saint's patience to tolerate some of the responses. So they just hate the idiot plebs. So 4 stars from The Guardian, 1 star from The Telegraph, both angry for opposite reasons. Only one of them is right.
Again, the patronising comes through and it's like, oh my God, imagine talking to people.
Yeah.
The rest of us do that. Like, we're not all Stalinists who just assume opposition is the correct politics.
The Guardian ran into a bit of a problem because there's a black woman in it, so they found a way to praise her lower down the piece. They say, well, she was great, but like, and they love the host.
She's got the same views as this white woman, but
yeah,
she's white, so...
Yeah, it was amazing. And even in the documentary, they're trying to say that basically black people haven't want to take the vaccine. But the way they explain it is to go, people from Lambeth. And it was just like, you don't mean that. You Lambeth, just say what you mean. It's like they don't want to take the vaccine because, they've got good reason. So did the people feel represented? Well, Nazarene didn't. She said, sadly, we've been misrepresented as expected. This leaves me no choice but to expose the truth of how those 6 days really went. BBC Two, if you're looking to make another biased documentary, rehire that same editor because they did a great job. So there you go.
I'm hoping she's got the recordings. And this is really a lesson, as any of these hit pieces always are, which is if you ever do decide to sit down with someone from dishonest media, you keep them honest, you just record the audio on your phone. Either you tell them you're doing it to try and keep them honest that way, or just do it secretly and don't tell them. And then when they put out their smear piece, you can literally just disprove it.
Yeah, I think she implies she has got some stuff in other posts. So it'd be interesting to see. And Vicky wasn't too happy either in the next tweet. She said, oh, what a shock. The BBC made me spend a week of my life explaining why I wasn't vaccinated to edit it and just show the bits that are made for good TV. So please watch me on GB. And they talked about GB. They didn't add that much to it. So I haven't got a clip, but they just basically said we infantilized. They didn't use it for, all the stuff we know that happens. If you want an idea of the tone of the whole piece, I thought this would be a funny clip to end on. Do we have that clip of this guy? Here we go. He's one of the subjects.
So at the moment, what's your sort of viewpoint on the vaccine?
It's just, to be fair, there's a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm. Is there a main fear? Is it little fears?
Well, no, I look
worrying?
at some of the side effects, or at least some of them that you see online.
Yes.
And I'm just starting to think, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Was there any in particular that sprung out to you that really worried you?
I mean, I'd like to have kids.
Yeah.
So I want the to be working.
I want the be working. So that was the kind of thing they put in it. I mean, fair play to the lad, really. But that's really what the whole thing was. It was sort of like pretty professionals of various kinds. Just take it. And going, no, I want my So that was the tone of the piece. And by the way, I threw this in as a little Easter egg if people are still using that phrase. Just the presenter there doing the one eye pose. What's that? I just thought that would send the internet. Have you seen the one eye pose?
I haven't actually.
You've never seen this?
I've
Is this
heard
a
of it.
meme Callum doesn't know?
God damn.
I didn't know there was such a thing. The boomer comes on and gives him a new meme.
All right, teach us.
So the one eye pose is just lots of people doing this allegedly satanic pose. They cover their...
the Illuminati.
Now I'm doing it now because I'll screenshot that. Yeah, it's the Illuminati sort of Satanism stuff, and it's the adrenochrome rabbit hole. But like, why is Hannah doing it? And I thought, is someone photoshopped that? Or is she part of the one eye club? I just got to put it out there.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit like...
That's a bit of fun just to discredit my position at the end.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on Ethelred the Unready. And if you want to follow what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.